Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it. Hello, my golf friend. Welcome back to Think Above Par. I'm so glad that you're here and listening. Hope you're having an amazing fall. I am so excited to share my interview that I had today with my friend, amazing golfer and a pioneer for women in the game of golf, Suzy Whaley. I invited Suzy to be on my summit and the Golf for Women Summit. She was so gracious to say yes. And I wanted to share my interview with her with you here. She's an amazing golfer and woman and a pioneer, really, in the game of golf. She was the first woman to become president of the PGA of America and only one of a few women to compete in a PGA Tour event. And so I've taught alongside Suzy. I've known her for a long time. We both were involved in the Nicholas Flick Golf Schools, which are actually called the Golf for Women Golf Schools, I think back then. And she's just had an inspiring journey that I thought you would find a lot of value out of hearing what she had to say on breaking down barriers and overcoming imposter syndrome and learning to own your own space on the golf course. And she even talks about getting your clubs properly fitted, to learning to how to play without perfectionism. So I think you're really going to enjoy what Suzy has to say. She is an inspiration, and I'm thrilled to have her on here and to share this interview with you. So without further ado, here's my interview with my friend, an amazing golfer and a pioneer in the game of golf, Suzy Whaley. Okay, so on the call today, I have Suzy Whaley. Suzy, thank you so much for being here and being on the summit with me.
My pleasure. I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So Suzy and I have known each other a really long time, but you all might know Suzy or be super impressed with all the things that she has done as a woman in the golf industry. I know I am. We taught together. We played against each other. We taught together in the Nicholas Flick schools, but she went on to actually be one of the only women, or actually after Babe Zaharis is what I read, to qualify for a PGA Tour event. And that was the Greater Hartford Open in 2003. And then she went on to become the president of the PGA of America, the first woman to become the president of the PGA America and hold a position there. So you are a pioneer of women inside of the golf industry, and I admire you for that. I love that you've paved the way, even though we did have a conversation about it doesn't seem so paved, but I love that you're the first in so many arenas. So I know your resume is super long and people can check you out and Google you because you have a lot behind you. But what do you think is what motivated you to like really take the path of becoming a first woman in? I mean, you're such a great golfer, so clearly you're qualified. I remember talking to you about you getting prepped for that 2003. You worked really, really hard. I know you worked out and you practiced hard to play against the guys. And then you became the president of the guys, because it's important to know that there's not a lot of women inside of the game of golf itself, but definitely not as a professional in the professional arena and the PGA. So what motivated you to do all that?
Yeah, it's funny. You don't plan to do any of that, right? I didn't plan to play in a PGA Tour event. It wasn't a lifelong goal. It was just I was playing in a tournament that had an exemption attached to it. I wanted to win the tournament, and it was against a bunch. There were two women in the field. Hope Kelly was the other female in the field, and that was all guys. I just wanted to beat them, right? I just wanted to get a trophy and a nice little paycheck and go home. And I always tell the story, when I actually won that event, it was kindergarten orientation that night. My daughter was in kindergarten. I didn't want to miss that. I didn't want to be a bad mom. Yeah. And a brand new TJ Maxx had opened on the way home that my mom and I stopped at. So you can imagine, like, it wasn't like about that event itself to go play, play with the guys on tour. I didn't think they'd ever give me the opportunity to do that. And when they called me and told me, are you going to take the exemption? It's like, oh my God, I don't know. Could I think about it? Like something incredibly stupid. I waited 3 months to make the decision, finally made it. Thrilled I played, right? But to your point, I was full-time head golf professional, two young girls, had a lot on my plate. My husband was in the golf business, but I worked my tail off and played well. And I'm proud of the way I played. Great. Moving on from there, I never imagined being PGA of America president, but I was playing a lot in my section. We have 41 sections at the PGA of America. We're about 5% female now. At the time, it was really probably 96% male when I began this journey. And I was invited. I played a lot of tournament golf with a lot of men who I really respected. They were great at their jobs. They helped me with my job. They gave me a lot of great advice. I had mentors amongst them. And they were my competitors too. And we became friends. And they had a lot in common with Bill, my husband, who's also a golf pro, and me. And I enjoyed my time with them. And they invited me to be a part of a committee. I was doing some television work at the time, and they wanted to be on the communications committee. And I said, yeah, I have no idea what that means, but but I'll do it, right? And that's how my governance journey started. I volunteered in my section in Connecticut for multiple committees, sponsors of marketing, tournaments, communication, and education, employment. And then they're like, oh, will you run for the board? I'm like, I don't know what that means either. Do you want me? Okay, yeah, I'll run for the board. So I ran for the board, and then I served on the board, and I loved it. I loved the people I was around. And that inspired me to keep going. And once I kept going and earned a seat for the national board, you had to run for an election for a national officer. And that was a really hard year. I had to earn the respect as a PGA professional, not because of my gender. Yeah. And I was proud of that, and then served as an officer. So it was honestly very organic. I felt I had a voice that was a different one in the room. I felt strong enough and confident enough that I had something to offer within the industry itself. Forget about gender. Mm-hmm. I was passionate about what I did, purposeful, intentional. I'm pretty outspoken, and I'm going to tell you what I think. And I didn't like a lot of things that were happening, and I wanted to be a part of that change if possible. Right? I knew I couldn't do it by myself, but I didn't always have the same opinion as everybody else in the room, and I think that was a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because, that's groupthink, and then the guys all kind of have a tendency to think alike. And coming at it from a woman's perspective, you see it differently. And the guys might secretly admire or like listen to those opinions because they're not like everybody else's. But you did a great job. And I've loved watching you be a pioneer in the golf industry. And I was a keynote speaker at a USGA women's senior event. And one of the things that I talked about, actually, the whole topic was about you belong. And I wanted those women to know that they belong in the game of golf, and they belong in that tournament, and they belong as someone over 50. And that's really one of the challenges, like just really what we're talking about is, and what we talked about before this, is as women in the game of golf, showing up at the course, showing up in the tournaments, showing up in the range, taking lessons, like taking up your space and knowing that you belong in the game of golf. What message, or what do you think, or how do you think that really either helps or hinders women, that whole concept?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so difficult in golf because if you haven't grown up with it, I grew up with it, right? So golf has just always been a part of my life. Never feared going to a course, never was intimidated by it because I did it when I was little. And I did it amongst all boys, right? I was the only girl then too, but my mom loved golf. So I think it's a very different perspective for those of us that grew up with the game and had the opportunities that I had to play at a facility and go day in, day out, understand the dynamics of all that versus somebody just starting. So I think number one, you've got to own that and understand that that's okay if you're just starting or if you're new to golf. I always say to women when I speak to groups of women, when people ask you if you play golf, oftentimes I see women never answer the question. And then later on in the conversation, they'll be like, oh yeah, I played twice last week. And I'll say something like, wait, why didn't you raise your hand when people asked if you played golf? She's like, well, I suck at it. I'm like, well, nobody asked you if you're good at it. They asked you if you play it, right? And I think that's like a whole microcosm, and I'm generalizing, of women. Like, for some reason, we don't think we belong unless we're good at it. Like, if we don't know 9 of the 10 traits that we need for a job, we don't apply. If we're not absolutely perfect at it, we're not going to do it in public yet until we own it, right? And golf, you're never going to be perfect at, number one. Number two, guys are horrible at it, mostly across the board. Right? Yes. But the perception in the world, and there's plenty of good men that play golf, but the perception in the world is everybody that plays is really good. And there's never been that definition that to be a golfer, you have to be good, right? Mm-hmm. But somehow or another, we've put that onto golf. And I think it makes women hesitate to step into the arena. Because the second they step into the arena and they have some sort of challenge, whether it be striking the golf ball itself, navigating, even checking in, understanding where to put your clubs in the locker room and the clothing attire and the language around the game that we think is inherent to the world
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make any sense. Bogey, birdie, there's so many words you've got to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of women are like, good gosh, I'm going to go to yoga.
Right. Yeah.
For an hour, because this is just a lot on my plate. But I think if you kind of sit back and realize, you don't have to learn it immediately. It's a lifelong journey. You will get good at it the more you play it and the more really good instruction you take on. And if you don't want to have any instruction, that's fine too. You can just go play for fun. So I think you really just have to decide, what is golf going to give back to you? And for me, I'm just happy on a golf course. I love being outside. I love being in nature. I love competition. I love being with my friends. I love to talk a lot, and that's what we do on a golf course together. I love having a drink after. I love food after. I love snacking the whole way around. I mean, there's just things in golf that I love beyond what I shot that day. And I wish I could impart that to women so they don't have this imposter syndrome that oftentimes I've found myself having in a boardroom full of men or in a business situation. When I finally realized that, hang on a second, I'm ready to be here and I should be here. But that's not easy. It's very easy for us to sit and say, to own your space on a golf course.
Yeah.
I think though, you have to really understand what that means in golf. And that if you're going to a facility and paying money, your money is the exact same as the group in front of you, right? Whether they're 4 men and you're playing with 3 men or you're playing with 3 of your girlfriends, that green is the same. And you've spent the money to play it. You own that tee time. You own that space. So enjoy it instead of worrying about holding people up or how bad you. This was my worst day ever on the course, because any day on the golf course is a fabulous day.
Right. And, I think you're right. Okay, I'm going to remember that one. This was a fabulous day, Kathy. But it's women have a tendency, more so than men, to compare themselves to other women on how they're doing. And it is that the definition of what's good. And relative to, or on the USGA website, because I just looked at it today, the average handicap for a woman is about 24, 26, right? And so that's average. That means that there's half of the people who play golf have a higher handicap than that, and half of the people who play golf have a lower handicap than that. And I think a lot of times women think they have to be so much better than they are, and that keeps them from showing up, especially as they compare themselves to other people, and especially on distance or how they hit shots, or feeling like it's super embarrassing to have big misses. I mean, you and I both know that we can be at the level that we're at and still top a ball. It's like, it's in our wheelhouse.
Whiffed, like totally missed the ball. I can tell you I can tell you the time of day was, I whiffed. I mean, golf is hard, right?
Yeah. That's the part that we love and hate. But the one thing is that when you and I grew up playing the game, there were so many factors, and I'm not like trying to cry me a river kind of thing, but there were so many factors that kept us. It was so hard to get into the game. There were days that women could play and days that women couldn't play. There were rooms that we could go into. There were clubs that we couldn't go into, or there were like grill rooms that we couldn't go into. There were courses that were just only men, way more than there are today. There were so many signals and messages from different clubs that we didn't belong, that we weren't allowed to play, that we weren't welcome. And you and I overcame that because we both grew up in the golf industry. So it was, it was so much easier than kids who did not grow up in that industry. But today I want, make sure that women remember too, those doors have been knocked down. Like, it's very rare to have a club that doesn't let women play pretty much every single day, or that there's rooms that you can't go into, or that there are still men only golf courses. But a lot of those barriers, don't you think, have come way down as far as access? They want women to participate.
Yeah, I do think they've come down, and I'm excited about that, right? I think there's room to grow. I've been at plenty of facilities now where there's still a men's grill, which I just can't comprehend. I mean, if you want a men's grill, I always say, that's your right as a private club, but put it in the locker room. Right? If you want to go do whatever you do in a men's grill, do it in your locker room. And don't make the women there aggravated because they can't walk through some space, right? So, I mean, for me, I always say, I played on a boys' high school golf team because there wasn't a girls' high school golf team, just to point out that we did have barriers. I think now it's just so much more fun to be able to walk into a daily fee facility and not have to ask what day is ladies' day, or what day is men's day. There's country clubs that still probably have that, but it's certainly come full circle. And now I know they have A members and B members, is how some clubs have tried to get around that. And the A member gets to play certain hours. But the good news is, as a female, you can be the A member.
Yeah, I was.
Play on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
So I think, educating and creating an awareness that some of the stories you may hear from those of us that are my age aren't still the case, but kind of get pulled around as we travel around. I think we also have to caution to making sure that we're telling what's happening today.
Yeah,
and
for sure. Yeah.
So women aren't like, whoa, well, I don't even want to walk into that. But like, what if I wear my Lulu legging pants, right? Yeah. Am I allowed to go there? And that's just like a whole nother gamut that's starting to come around too, which not everywhere, but I'm excited about. If you want to go play golf, you shouldn't have to worry about your shorts being below your knees. For God's sake.
Exactly.
I'm not wearing those.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, those are no bueno. Okay. So, all right. What else do you think, in your opinion, would really be helpful, or what is a barrier that women could get past, or a way that they could enjoy the game a little bit more? What do you see in the women that you teach and the experiences that you have that could really shift their experience or their performance? Because you are a top 50 teacher in the game of golf and have been for a long time. So you're really well versed in swing mechanics and all the experience you had competing. What do you think are a couple things that women could get a lot of value out of to help them enjoy their experience?
Oh, I think there's so many that we could talk about, so I'll try to just keep it tight. But number one, make sure you're getting your clubs fit, because most of the women that I coach that are new think they're not good enough to have a custom set of clubs. And I get that, but that couldn't be it's the exact opposite. If you get some clubs that actually fit you for your height, for your arm length, for your size, for your mobility, your athleticism, you're going to play better right out of the gate. And I'm here to tell you, when you can hit the ball better, quicker, it's just more fun. It's not fun to continue to miss if your clubs are too long, or if your clubs are too short, or if they're too heavy for you. And don't even worry about what you're supposed to have, or somebody maybe in your household who thinks they know what you're supposed to have. Go and have somebody that's a professional share with you what you need. Hit them. Right? Don't just buy them off a rack. Make sure you hit them and learn about them. And you don't need a full set either when you're new. So can you get a full set? Of course you can, but you're only going to end up using 3 clubs or 4 clubs when you first start, because they're going to be your favorites.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, that would be number one for me. I think.
And that's for all levels. That's whether you're new or advanced. I think a lot of women who have been playing for a long time still feels like they get sold inventory, like that you're just going to fit into an average women's set because of your club head speed. And so they never really, even at a 28 handicap, it doesn't matter if you've been playing golf a long time or a new golfer or more advanced. It's just, why not have the equipment is so good these days? Why not have it work for you versus it questioning whether it's even working against you?
And probably some of you are saying, well, where am I supposed to go do that? I don't belong to a country club. Okay, there's facilities now that are off-course facilities that can fit you. Some country clubs, even if you're not a member, will have demo days where they'll welcome you to be fit. Some public golf courses have demo days where you can try clubs and schedule a fitting. The fitting should not cost you an enormous amount of money. It should go back into the purchase of your clubs. And custom fit clubs, unless you're buying a really new, maybe 3-4 club set off the rack, should not be that much more expensive. Certainly there's a top line, but you don't need a top line when you're starting. You just need something that actually fits your ability level. Yeah. So, and as I said, people who perhaps are 5'10" that are female, if somebody just says to you, oh, here's our ladies set, like, wait a minute. Because if you have really short arms and you're 5'10", you're never going to find the ground. You're going to top it all day long, and you're just going to think you're horrible when in fact it's equipment based. So I beat it at horse. But at the end of the day, I would love you to stop thinking you're not good enough to treat yourself to having something that actually fit you. That would be number one. Number two, I would tell you that go with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a partner, a spouse, a neighbor, whomever, and just go to a range somewhere and just try it without instruction. because I want you to be able to, and this is way opposite again of what you're going to hear from magazines and podcasts. You got to go to a professional right away, learn the basics. I'm here to tell you it's way more fun to be horrible and then take a lesson than to take a lesson and have 53 things in your head and never know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So I would say go with a friend, have some fun, get, coffee, Pepsi, Coke, a wine.
That's up our alley.
And just figure it out. Here's the ball. I'm supposed to hit it with this club head. I have no clue what I'm doing. Laugh, have some giggles, and then sign up for a lesson. And when you go to that lesson, just say, hey, I've been to a Top Golf. I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it a couple of times. And I'm here to tell you, it just will lighten, I think, the air a little bit versus you saying this is your first time.
Yeah.
If you've already been for a long time and you're still struggling and you want to get better and you feel like you're putting the time in to get better, I always tell people, I want you to take an on-course lesson. I think so many women end up I call them range rats. Because we want to perfect everything, which is one of our best traits, right? We want to be really good at things when we do them. But playing golf isn't the range, right? The beauty of golf is being on the golf course. And I know it's scary to go out on the golf course and try it out there. But if you only take lessons at the range, because of our inability to hit it as far as most men, and that's a generalization, there's plenty of women who hit it very far. But most women hit it maybe 100 off the tee to 150 off the tee. Plenty of you hit it way farther than that. But for the average, that's about it. We need to strategically teach you on course around the greens from 50, 60 yards out so you can get it on the green and down into most every time. And when I do that, or Kathy can teach you that, golf becomes so much more fun because even if you've missed a couple of long shots, we take out the quadruple and the triple bogeys. We eliminate those. Not always. You're still going to have a bad hole now and again, but we start to move into the double bogey par range more often. And then once you get pretty good at it and you have that great day, you're going to start shooting some of your lowest scores. But until you learn and I always say you need a low shot and a high shot around the greens. Don't get it complicated. But once I teach you a low shot and once I teach you a high shot and teach you some experiential putting, golf becomes so much more strategic and easier and fun.
Yeah, I don't think you make a great point. I don't think a lot of people are taught really how to score. They spend so much time on the range that they're so worried as women, particularly, that we have to be perfect. I can't tell you how many times I've taught people and they come to my clinic, let's say the beginning of the season clinic, year after year after year, let's say it's a new golfer clinic. I'm like, why are you here? She's like, just pretend I know nothing. But you don't know nothing. You do. You've been doing this for 3 years, but we keep putting ourselves back into I'm not good enough. I'm a beginner stage. And that knowing how to score and understanding how to take what you own out onto the golf course, whether that's 3 7-irons to get on the green, 2 putt and get a bogey and get the hell out of there. That's scoring. And a lot of times they think, women and men, but we think that, well, I own a 3-wood, I should hit it. I'm like, hell no, you shouldn't hit it, right? If you want to hit your favorite clubs. And so just understanding what you own and taking out to the golf course, I think that's such a great point about course management and the scoring shots around the green from 50 yards in, like you said, so important.
Then I always tell them too, if you do have a handicap with the USGA, because so many people don't. And if you don't, you should get one. It makes it more fun to play with friends who have one, and you get a little buffer as you start to grow your game or get better. You lose your buffer, which is a good thing. Having a high handicap is not necessarily a bad thing when you're playing against somebody with a low handicap. But if you have one, I would say, so let's say your handicap is 30 for easy purposes here. I always tell the women I coach and the men, that means you're supposed to miss 30 times. Okay? Yeah. So if you're supposed to miss 30 times and you miss your first tee shot, so what? You have 29 more misses. And I'm here to tell you, when you play with a group you've never played with before, when you get thrust into a corporate event and it's all men and you're uncomfortable, when you're in your club championship and you're a super competitive female and you want to win, but those nerves kick in on that first tee, I'm trying to teach you just how to think about the game a little differently, not negatively, but okay, I wouldn't have a 30K handicap if I was really perfect as this, and I'm supposed to miss. And so what? It just happened off the first tee. I'm good. Otherwise, you get caught in this like zone of, oh my gosh, here we go again. I should have said no. I should never have signed up for this day. I can't believe I entered this championship or whatever. And it's just like this never ending cycle instead of, you know what, today I only had 28 mistakes. I played like shots better than I've ever played. My handicap's 30 and I had 28 mistakes today. Like, it's just so much more fun that way. And, it turned a lot of people's games around, not because I did anything differently with their swing mechanics or their strategy. It was just how they thought about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mindset is huge, right? So important. You have all the talent in the world, hit all the balls you want, but if you can't manage your brain on the golf course, you're just not going to see it. Right. And so, and it does often talk, which I talk about, just takes one thought to really shift, or one perspective to really shift things. So speaking of that, being competitions. So many women are afraid to sign up for like the club championship. They'll have at the club a club championship, and there's 4 women that sign up or 5 women that sign up. Sometimes I blame the shop for the formatting. So let's make a formatting that's a little more friendly for it. If some women don't want to go out and just play straight stroke play or have some other flights, but club championship, going and playing in a local event, going and playing in maybe a state open, a senior open. I have so many clients who are signing up for state opens in their 50s. I just had to talk to them today, and they said they're playing with these young kids, getting it bombed past there. They finished last, but they're like, I showed up, right? It's like, that's what it's all about, is like, who cares that you finished last? Like, nobody is going to remember what you shot next week or even the next day. It doesn't really matter. But we play small, right? We play small, and we don't show up to play in these events and to put our game out there for other people to see. And we miss out on so many experiences within the game of golf. So as a person who has put their game out there a lot, talk to the person, not only, from the beginner, but let's say someone who's a regular club player, maybe is good enough and wants to go out and start playing in some more local events or even national events. How could you encourage them, or how could you help them pivot their mentality on that?
Yeah, I think so many golfers, including me, get outcome based, right? So we only rate ourselves on our score in golf, because that's the only thing that's a metric that the world can see, right? We have this card that's never changed in 120 years. We write down the numbers, we add it up at the end of the day. And that's the only thing that states what we did that day. Okay, I shot this, right? And I think for people because number one, it's brave to sign up for any kind of competition or any kind of thing that's out of your comfort zone. I always say you have to get uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, which isn't easy. It takes a lot of guts. And so I think number one, you got to say to yourself, well, am I a brave person? Some of you are going to be like, nope. And some of you are going to be like, yeah, I'm brave. I'll take a little risk. And that's the person that I would say to you, okay, if you're willing to hop into the arena, because it's not for everybody, I get it, but I would love for you to work toward it, and build some confidence and some skills that would allow you to maybe one day play with 3 people you don't know, or enter the 9-hole club championship, whatever level you're at. I'd love you to be able to get there, but I'm not going to just assume I can toss you to the wolves right out of the gate. But for those of you who are like, raise their hand, yeah, I'm pretty brave. I do things that I think are out of my comfort zone. What I would tell you is, I always tell my students this too. If it's the first time you've ever done it, you're going to have some errors. And Dr. Richard Koop was my sports psychologist when I played in the Greater Hartford Open. That was against the men on the PGA Tour. Mm-hmm. And he gave me some of the best advice. And then I'll give you some other things too that I do. But he said, Suzy, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. But I want you to allow yourself to have 3 mistakes without any judgment. So no tapes playing in my head of here we go again, or I always do this, or I knew this was going to happen, or I shouldn't be here. It was just, I made a mistake and I'm going to move on. So I always tell my students, I want you to give yourself, because it worked for me. I want you to try to give yourself 3 non-judgmental errors, even if they're just god awful. Even if you just completely shank it off the first tee, you can't judge it. There's 1. You have 2 left for the rest of your time. The second thing I would tell you is I always like to have my students set 3 goals for the day. And maybe those goals are, so let's say you play 18 holes, and let's say your golf course is very narrow. and you know that your driver hasn't been so great, but here you are, it's club champ week. I want you to set a realistic set of goals for how many fairways you would like to hit that day. So that, I can't tell you what that number should be. I want you to kind of think about that in your head of how many fairways do I normally hit when I'm not nervous?
Mm-hmm.
Fairways have I hit when I'm really tense or playing with people I don't like? And then come up with a midpoint, right? And that's one of your goals for the day. Maybe another goal is I'm only going to have 2 3-putts today. And give myself 2 3 or no 3-putts today. Mm-hmm. Whatever, again, your skill level is. And then maybe it has something to do with a specific hole. I'm going to manage my emotions on number 6 because everybody has a nemesis hole that they hate. Mm-hmm. And they want to put like a plaque where their ball always goes in the water.
Right.
Like, if you have that nemesis hole, I want you to figure out strategically what's your best lowest score options without trying to take a lot of risk on that hole, and try to manage that hole and get through that hole. Or maybe it's 2 holes. Because I don't want your metric to be the number, because I think what people fear is being on that stupid scoreboard in the middle of the clubhouse, right? With their name, with the number. And while you see it and you know it's there, nobody else really cares, candidly, especially the people who beat you, because they want to beat you anyway. And so it's just like a passing thing for them. But for you, it's like a dagger in the heart sitting through your French fries, staring at your name with the highest score, right? So I wish country clubs would only post the top 3.
Yeah.
Used to do that. And since that's not the case, you have to give yourself a different set of objectives and successes, in my opinion, because you're going to have a bad day. And sometimes you're going to have a great day. But if you're only relating your day on your score and that's you versus just your game that day, I think entering becomes even more difficult the next time. Yeah. So you want your first time to have a different set, in my opinion, of goals versus just, I'm going to break 80 today. Yeah. Or I'm going to, because it usually doesn't happen that way.
No, I tell people the hardest round of golf I ever played was a PAT. Because you have to shoot a PAT is a playing ability test that I had to take out. Was a member of the LPGA. Actually, I'm not a member anymore. So it was the hardest thing. And I came off playing for a living, right? And I'm out there trying to shoot a break 83. I hadn't shot over 76 in 6 months. And I'm out there counting. I can go double, 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 double. And still, I'm like, what am I doing? Right. And then I made a bogey. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I can go double, 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 double bogey. And okay. And I was like, I had to like go blah, 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 try to like shake it off. You can't shoot a number. It's like the worst thing that you can actually do for your brain is try and break a number, because that's not the way golf is. But it really is what I tell people. It's about the experience that you want to have, and like what you're speaking into. If at the end of the day, I can be proud of myself for the way that I showed up, the score is going to show up. The score is going to be what the score is going to be. And the thing about showing up for a tournament is that it reminds me of, what's the movie? But did you die? Right? Like, what movie is that? Like, I think it's like Hangover or something. It's like you didn't, you survived. You did not die. You got through it. And when you see that you didn't die, then you can show up for the next one, and it becomes easier and easier.
Like, the boat's not sinking. Your brain thinks it is, because you put your brain in trauma, literally, when you're that nervous and that anxious and performing poorly. But you have to like step back away and say, hold on a second. Like, I'm on the 7th hole of this beautiful golf course. And yeah, I pretty much stink today. But you know what? I'm hitting that 7-wood off that next tee, because I've been working on it all week with Kathy. And I promised I would hit that 7-wood one time during this round of golf. Those are the things that will make you smile and remember that you actually like golf, and that it's okay, and that you're there and you're going to try to enjoy the rest of your day. But I wouldn't want to put false expectations on people to think that every time you play in a tournament, you're going to walk away all giddy, joyful, and happy because I set you these 3 new objectives. But you know what? You can go home and say, you know what? This is what I did really crappy today. But let me tell you about the stuff I did great.
Yeah.
And we'll enter again.
Yeah.
And that's what I always look for. I'm not looking for a one and done. Okay, check it off the list. I played in the club championship. I want you to have a golf journey where you see some improvement and you actually enjoy the process of getting better. And I think most people just forget this is a process. It's not an overnight success.
Yeah, 100%. That was awesome. I loved everything you said. It's so on point. I think that was really good advice that people can take away for, and hopefully start signing up for more events and putting themselves out there and knowing that they belong in the game of golf and make sure that they go get fit for their equipment. And so, okay, so Suzy, thank you so much for being here. But if people want to reach out and learn more about you or connect with you, how can they do that?
You can find me everywhere with my name. I'm Suzy Whaley on Instagram. I'm at Suzy Whaley on LinkedIn, SuzyWhaley@gmail.com. So, you know what? You can find me pretty much every place. But I wish everybody well. And I hope lots of golf is in your future, no matter your ability. If you're new, if you're super competitive, best of luck. And look, Kathy and I have made it all this way. You will too.
Exactly. We're still here, plugging along.
Yeah. We're still here. Still trying to get better. So it is a journey.
It's a journey. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate it.
That's my pleasure.
Okay.
Okay, so there you have it, my golf friend. There's Suzy Whaley. She's an amazing person and inspiration. I hope you found some nuggets to take away and maybe to be inspired to take yourself out on the golf course, compete, and enjoy your experience a little bit more. So if you want any help with any other part of the mental part of your game, make sure that you reach out to me at kathyhartwood.com. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. All right, bye.